You've done everything they told you, followed the rules, set the goals, built the life. But deep down, something still doesn't feel right, does it? There's a quiet tension you can't explain, like you're living someone else's definition of meaning. And no one warned you that success might still feel empty. But Einstein did. He saw it coming. He knew we were building a world that rewards noise over truth. And he tried to warn us. Because the real crisis isn't that people are lost. It's that they're following a map that was never meant to take them home. And in this video, we're going to unravel the lie that's been shaping your life and show you how to return to something real. Not the version of you they taught you to become, but the one you were before the world told you who to be. So if something in you feels a little different right now, a little softer, a little more awake, maybe that's not by accident. Maybe this isn't just a video. Maybe it's a space you've been needing without realizing it. A space to breathe, reflect, remember. And if your heart feels at home here, you're welcome to stay. Quietly, gently. No pressure, no noise, just a shared journey. Back to what matters. Let the next one find you when you're ready. We'll be here. You've done everything right, or at least everything they said was right. You set goals. You worked hard. You stayed busy. You followed the blueprint. Career, money, ambition, progress. You chased it all because someone once told you that if you just kept going, if you just achieved enough, one day you'd feel complete. But here you are, and something still feels off. Not broken exactly, just hollow, like you're checking all the boxes but missing the point. Like there's this quiet ache you can't name, a restlessness that shows up when things get quiet, when the phone is down, when you're finally alone with yourself. And maybe you haven't said it out loud. Maybe you haven't even admitted it to yourself. But deep down, you know. This isn't it. Not fully. Not in the way you were promised. That's because you've been living inside a lie. Not your fault. Not something you chose on purpose. But a lie so loud, so repeated, so baked into our world that most people never even question it. The lie is this: that your worth is measured by what you produce. That your value is earned by how much you can prove, perform, achieve. That the more noise you make in the world, the more you matter. It's subtle, but it's everywhere. From the moment you wake up, it's on your screen, in your feed, in the pressure to do more, post more, be more. And it's exhausting. But here's the truth. Most people never get to hear. Not because it's hidden, but because the world's just too noisy to notice it. You were never meant to chase your worth. You were never meant to become someone for the sake of being seen. You were meant to remember who you already are, underneath the noise, beyond the proving. Albert Einstein saw this long before social media, long before the burnout generation. He once said, "A calm and modest life brings more happiness than the pursuit of success combined with constant restlessness." He understood something that still feels radical today. That peace and purpose don't come from the outside. They come from returning to simplicity, to presence, to truth. And maybe that's why you're here, not by accident, not just scrolling. Maybe some quiet part of you is waking up, starting to remember, not who you're supposed to be, but who you already are. You ever wonder why you still feel numb, even when life on the outside looks fine? You've hit the milestones. Maybe you've got the job, the title, the routine. People say you're doing well, and yet, inside, something's flat. Like you're watching your own life happen from a distance. Like you're moving but not alive. That's not depression. That's not failure. That's a signal. A signal that the version of success you were taught might be killing something essential inside you. See, most people are chasing a picture, a polished, perfect image of what life should look like, curated, optimized, validated. But no one tells you that chasing the image means starving the soul, Because images don't feed you, applause doesn't ground you, and no amount of doing can fill the hole created by not being. Einstein saw it clearly. Even as the world around him idolized intellect, titles, accolades, he was awarded, admired, put on a pedestal. And yet, he often warned us. Try not to become a man of success, he said, but rather a man of value. He wasn't being humble. He was being honest. Because success, as we define it, is external. It's what the world claps for. But value, that's internal. That's what your soul claps for. And there's a difference, a big one. Success will have you constantly proving, constantly upgrading, constantly comparing yourself to people who don't even know you exist. It will have you afraid to pause, afraid to rest, afraid to ask, why am I even doing this? Because if you stop, even for a moment, the silence might answer back. You don't know, and that's terrifying, until it's not. Because once you face it, once you admit that maybe you've been chasing someone else's dream, someone else's version of worth, something strange begins to happen. You start to feel again. The numbness fades, not all at once, but gradually. The fog lifts. You notice little things, the warmth of a coffee mug in your hands, the sound of your own breath, the space between thoughts. It's not dramatic, but it's real. Because numbness isn't about laziness or weakness. It's about disconnection. And the modern idea of success, constant stimulation, constant comparison, constant motion, is designed to disconnect you from yourself. You become a brand, a function, a goal, and somewhere in the process, you forget how to be human. Einstein was a genius, yes. But what made him rare wasn't just his mind. It was his capacity to see through the illusion, to understand that we're not just here to achieve things. We're here to remember things. Timeless things. Quiet things. Things that no algorithm or trophy could ever give you. And so maybe the question isn't, how do I become successful? Maybe the real question is, what am I trading for that version of success? Your peace, your presence, your self-respect. Because you can lose your soul chasing something that was never yours to begin with. But here's the good news. The moment you stop, just stop for a second, you create space. And in that space, the real you can breathe again. Not the performer. Not the pleaser, just you. And that's where real value begins. Not in what you accomplish, but in how deeply you come home to yourself. Let me ask you something. When's the last time you were quiet? Not just no music, no phone kind of quiet. I mean internally quiet. No planning the next move, no rehearsing your worth, no proving, no performing. Just stillness. Silence. Hard to remember, isn't it? Because we live in a world that equates movement with meaning. If you're not doing something, you're falling behind. If you're not chasing something, you're wasting time. But Einstein saw things differently, radically differently. You know him as the scientist, the mind that reshaped how we see time, space, reality itself. But what most people don't realize is that Einstein wasn't obsessed with complexity. He was devoted to simplicity, to wonder, to silence. He said things like, "The monotony and solitude of a quiet life stimulates the creative mind." And, "The intuitive mind is a sacred gift, and the rational mind is a faithful servant." Take a moment. Let those words sink in. Have you been living as the servant or the gift? Because the world teaches you to use logic, to calculate, to execute, but it rarely tells you how to listen, deeply, inwardly. And that's what Einstein actually did best. He listened to the spaces between things, to the patterns beneath the surface, to the silence that most people are too distracted to hear. And what he discovered in that silence wasn't just science, it was truth. Spiritual, emotional, existential truth. Here's the part that people miss. Einstein's greatest genius wasn't his intellect. It was his capacity to feel awe, to hold paradox, to surrender to mystery instead of trying to control it. He once said, "The most beautiful experience we can have is the mysterious. It is the fundamental emotion which stands at the cradle of true art and true science." Pause here for a moment. When was the last time you felt that? That sense of mystery, not as confusion, but as beauty. Not as something to solve, but something to feel. This is what your life might be missing. Not purpose in the form of a job, or clarity in the form of a 5-year plan, but aliveness, reverence, that deep sense that you're part of something vast and sacred, even if you don't fully understand it. Now let me ask you something personal. Have you been living your life like it's a math problem? Something to figure out, to get right, to solve? What if it's more like a piece of music? What if you're not supposed to get it, but to feel it? Einstein believed in harmony, not just in physics, but in existence. He spoke of a quiet rhythm beneath the chaos, a deeper intelligence woven into everything. And here's the part you may need to hear most. You have access to that rhythm, right now, even as you listen. It's not reserved for geniuses. It's not locked behind meditation retreats or spiritual certifications. It's here, in you, beneath the noise, beneath the hurry, beneath the voice in your head that's always asking if you're doing enough. That's the quiet wisdom Einstein tried to live by. He wasn't chasing validation. He wasn't trying to go viral. He spent much of his life in solitude, by choice, not because he was antisocial, but because he had discovered something the world was too busy to notice. Stillness is not absence. It's access, and when you touch that stillness, even for a few seconds, something in you changes. You don't just feel better. You feel real again. So right now, just for a moment, stop. Not forever, not dramatically, just right now. Take a breath. In through the nose, out through the mouth. Notice the feeling of your body, the weight of it, the sound of this moment. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're not late. You're just remembering what your soul knew before the noise began. That's what Einstein believed. And now, maybe, you're beginning to believe it too. Feeling lost isn't failure. It's not a detour. And it's not a flaw in your design. It's not something to fix or escape or outrun. It's a signal, a sign that something deeper inside you is starting to wake up. You don't feel lost because you're weak. You feel lost because the old map no longer works, and you're finally brave enough to admit it. See, we live in a world that worships clarity, certainty, direction, knowing. We're taught that if we don't have a 5-year plan, if we don't have a label, a brand, a clear identity to show the world, we're behind, broken, failing. But here's what no one tells you. Lost isn't the opposite of progress. Lost is the beginning of truth, because being lost means you've stopped pretending to know. You've stopped numbing yourself with busy answers. You've paused long enough to feel the questions. And that's where real growth begins, in the raw space between what you thought life was and what it's actually calling you to become. Einstein understood this. He was no stranger to uncertainty, to silence, to standing alone in a room full of people who thought he was wrong. But he wasn't afraid of not knowing. He revered it. He once said, "The most important thing is not to stop questioning." Curiosity has its own reason for existing. You feel lost, not because you're broken, but because you're on the edge of something bigger than you've been taught to imagine. And in that space, that strange, in-between place, your identity starts to stretch. Your questions start to mature. You begin to realize that the version of you who wants answers is not the same version of you who's ready to receive them. So what if you stop resisting the fog? What if instead of trying to force clarity, you listen to what the confusion is trying to reveal? Because here's the truth. You only get lost when it's time to find something real, not another version of success, not another mask, but a life that's actually yours. You may not know where you're going, but you're starting to know what no longer feels like home. You're starting to feel the cost of staying small, staying busy, staying numb. You're starting to crave something real, even if you can't name it yet. And that craving, that's sacred. It means you're alive. It means you're ready. Ready to let go of the borrowed dreams. Ready to stop chasing what doesn't speak to your soul. Ready to stop fitting in and start showing up. Einstein once said, "A person who never made a mistake never tried anything new." So if you feel like your life is unraveling, maybe it's not falling apart. Maybe it's falling open. And what if all of this, the confusion, the doubt, the restlessness, isn't something going wrong? What if it's exactly what's supposed to happen when you're finally done living someone else's story? Pause. Let that land. You're not lost. You're shifting, you're becoming, and yes, it's uncomfortable, but it's also beautiful, because when the old path disappears, you're free to walk your own. Let me ask you something that no one else will. Who are you when no one's watching? Not the version of you that gets things done, not the one people admire or depend on, not even the one you've tried to become. I'm asking about the part of you that's left. When the noise dies down, when the roles fade, when all that's left is presence. Because hidden in that presence is a kind of purpose you may have forgotten. Not the kind they talk about in books or on stages. Not the one tied to achievement, or legacy, or greatness. But the quiet kind, the sacred kind, the kind you can feel, but not always explain. See, there's a reason so many people are exhausted, even when their lives are full. It's because they're constantly trying to earn their place, to prove they matter, to build a name, to secure a legacy. But Einstein saw right through that illusion. He knew something most of the world still hasn't caught up to. He once said, "Only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile." And when you hear that, it might sound simple. But if you really sit with it, it shakes something loose. Because we've been taught that purpose is about becoming somebody. But what if it's not? What if the real purpose of life is to disappear into something larger than yourself? Not to vanish, but to dissolve the need to be impressive. To let go of the pressure to stand out, and instead choose to pour into moments, pour into people, pour into presence itself. There's something holy about that. Think about it. Have you ever had a conversation with someone who really listened? Not out of obligation, not while checking their phone, but fully, eyes soft, heart open, time slowed. Remember how it felt? Maybe it wasn't even what they said. Maybe it was the way they saw you, fully, without needing you to perform. That's the kind of presence that heals people. And here's the secret. That kind of presence is purpose. It doesn't have to be grand. It just has to be real. But we forget that. We trade soul for spectacle. We chase meaning in the spotlight, forgetting that some of the most sacred things happen in the shadows, like comforting someone in silence, like choosing kindness instead of being right, like staying after the crowd has gone, just to make sure someone's okay. These things don't go viral. They don't build platforms, but they build people. And that matters more than we've been taught to believe. Einstein understood the beauty of invisibility, not as erasure, but as freedom. He lived most of his life away from attention. He valued solitude, simplicity, reflection. Because he knew that the real breakthroughs, in science and in life, happen when we stop trying to be impressive and start listening to what the universe is quietly asking of us. And maybe it's asking the same of you now, not to rise, but to soften, not to chase, but to return, not to dominate, but to serve. Because you don't need a title to be a healer. You don't need a platform to be powerful. You don't need a following to live with meaning. You just need to be fully here, wherever here is. Let me tell you something true. The most important things you'll ever do might not feel important while you're doing them. They might look like nothing, like picking up someone's call at 2 a.m., like smiling at the stranger no one else notices, like forgiving someone, even if they never apologize, like showing up, again and again, when no one's clapping. But don't let the world's silence fool you. These are the moments that build you, and these are the moments that build others. They're quiet, yes, but they echo far beyond what you can measure. So, maybe you didn't lose your purpose. Maybe you just forgot what it actually looks like. It doesn't come with fireworks. It doesn't arrive with applause. Sometimes, it just shows up as a choice, in the middle of an ordinary day, to love when it would have been easier to withdraw, to stay when it would have been easier to leave, to give when it would have been easier to guard. And maybe that's the whole point. Not to be known for what you've done, but to become someone who brings peace where there was pressure, light where there was confusion, stillness where there was noise. You don't need to go find your purpose. You just need to remember it was never about you. It was always about what moves through you, what flows from you, when you stop trying to be someone and simply start being. Here, let's talk about something we all feel but rarely question: time. You wake up feeling late. You rush through the day like you're trying to catch something. You go to bed with a list you didn't finish, and a weight you can't name, and somewhere deep inside, there's this voice whispering, you should be further by now, further in life, further in love, further in healing, further in whatever invisible race your mind is convinced you're losing. But what if I told you? Time doesn't work the way you think. Einstein didn't just change science. He shattered our entire understanding of time. He saw something that still hasn't fully sunk into the way we live. The distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion. Let that land. What you call time, this straight line of minutes, hours, years, isn't fixed. It bends, it stretches, it folds, and more importantly, it lies. Because it tells you that your life is a race, that you're behind, that you're too early or too late or too old or too young. It makes you believe that purpose is out there, in the next job, the next relationship, the next version of yourself. But Einstein knew something deeper, that what matters isn't how fast you move, it's how deeply you arrive. See, the real problem isn't time itself, it's how we relate to time. We treat the present moment like a stepping stone, a waiting room, a means to an end. We rush through it trying to get to some better version of later. But here's the truth. If you keep living for someday, you'll miss everything that's already trying to find you today. You'll miss the clarity that only comes in stillness, the connection that only comes in presence, the joy that doesn't announce itself. It whispers softly in the moments you usually overlook. Think about it. How many times have you been physically somewhere, but not really there? Talking to someone while your mind is elsewhere. Walking, while checking your phone. Breathing without even noticing that you're breathing. That's not life. That's absence disguised as productivity. And the saddest part? Most people spend their whole lives that way. They die with calendars full and hearts that never fully opened. But you don't have to. You don't need to wait for a perfect moment to start living deeply. You just need to stop running long enough to feel this one. And I know that's hard, because the world rewards speed. It celebrates hustle. It glorifies the grind. But presence? Presence doesn't make noise. It just changes everything. Einstein understood this, not just through equations, but through existence. He didn't rush. He wandered. He reflected. He listened to what the universe was saying beneath the surface. And that's where genius lives. Not in acceleration, but in attention. So what would happen if you stopped measuring your life by clocks and calendars? What would happen if you stopped saying, "I'll be happy when," and started asking, "What if I already have enough right now?" Because purpose doesn't wait in the future. It waits in the now, in the choice you've been postponing, in the conversation you've been afraid to have, in the moment you usually scroll past. Purpose lives in the next breath you're about to take, if you actually take it. Right now, wherever you are, pause. Seriously, pause the rush. Let your shoulders drop. Breathe. Not shallow, not forced, just real. Feel your body. You are not behind. You are not running out of time. You are not late for your destiny. You're just early to your presence, and presence expands time. When you're fully here, 5 minutes can feel like forever. When you're fully connected, one word can change a life. When you're fully alive, you stop trying to make time move, because you realize you've already arrived. So maybe the problem isn't how much time you have. Maybe it's how little of it you actually live. You don't need more hours. You need more awareness, more moments that feel like this one, honest, quiet, real, and when you live that way, something incredible starts to happen. Time stops running from you. It starts opening to you. Life begins to feel slower, but deeper, less crowded, but more full. And you realize the real miracle isn't what you've done, it's what you're becoming right now, not someday. So stop measuring yourself by timelines. You're not here to keep up, you're here to wake up. Because everything you've been rushing toward might already be waiting for you, right here, in this breath, in this now. Let's stop here for a moment, not to end the journey, but to begin a new one. Because reflection means little if it doesn't ripple into how you live. And you didn't come all this way just to think differently. You came to become different. So let me offer you something simple, not a goal, not a test, not another thing to chase, but a return to presence, to meaning, to yourself. I call it the 7-day silent return. Here's how it works. Every day for the next 7 days, you'll choose one small act, something intentional, quiet, invisible, something done without needing recognition. No cameras, no applause. No one even has to know you did it. It can be anything. Day 1. Maybe you write a message to someone who's hurting, but never send it. Day 2. Maybe you let someone cut in line, and you don't even make eye contact. Day 3. You pick up something that isn't yours and put it in its place. Day 4. You smile at someone who looks tired, not with your lips, but with your eyes. Day 5. You forgive someone in your heart, even if they never say sorry. Day 6. You clean a space no one else will notice. Day 7. You say thank you, silently, not to a person, but to life itself. That's it. No reward, no badge, just presence. Just the act itself, pure and unfiltered. And at the end of each day, before sleep, you ask yourself one question. How did that feel? Not, what did I get from it? Not, did anyone notice? Not, was it worth it? Just, what shifted in me when I gave without needing anything back? You might be surprised by what you notice. Maybe a calm you haven't felt in years. Maybe a softening. Maybe, for the first time in a long time, a sense that you're exactly where you're meant to be, doing exactly what you're meant to do. Because here's the deeper truth Einstein understood. One most people still miss: when you give something pure, you don't lose energy, you receive it. When you serve from presence, not to prove, not to be seen, not to be loved, but simply because you are love, something ancient in you wakes up. That's the kind of energy that doesn't drain you. It builds you, it grounds you, it aligns you with who you were before the world told you who to be. And you start to realize you don't need a platform to live with purpose. You don't need a mission statement to make a difference. You don't even need clarity. You just need this moment, this choice, this breath. So here it is, a return to self, a return to soul, a return to meaning without noise. For 7 days, do one small thing, in silence, and let the stillness do what it always does: bring you back to the part of you that's not chasing, not proving, not afraid, just here. So, now that we've come all this way together, let me leave you with something simple. You don't have to figure it all out right now. But you do have to pay attention, because life doesn't shout, it whispers. It speaks in the small things, in the stranger who crosses your path, in the silence that visits you at night, in that one ordinary moment that somehow feels sacred. And if you're moving too fast, chasing too hard, trying too much to be someone, you might miss it. Everything we talked about today, purpose, peace, presence, it only begins to make sense when you slow down enough to actually feel it. So if this touched something in you, something that's been quiet for a long time, then hit subscribe. Not just to follow a channel, but to stay close to the part of you that's still searching and starting to. Remember, leave a like, not for me, but so this message finds someone else who's tired of just surviving. And if someone came to mind while you listened, share this with them. Because sometimes all a person needs is the right sentence at the right time, to remember that even when there's no clear path, there's still a direction. You're not lost, you're just arriving.